Next topic we're going to dive into, we're going to chew on this one a little bit, is a lot of people out there, okay, why did the Dodgers lose? Runners in scoring position. They struggle with runners in scoring position. You see everyone basically saying that is the main reason why LA is at home right now. They go 5 for 34. They hit 147 with runners aboard in the postseason after leading Major League Baseball with a 272 average in the regular season. So this team was stringing together clutch hits all season long, but they just weren't able to get those timely hits in the postseason. Now, why do you think that is? What do you think is the biggest reason? Was it the approach? Was it the lineup? Was it just bad situational hitting? Just what's your whole take on the lack of runners in scoring position execution?
Yeah, I mean, even though the Dodgers were the best team with runners in scoring position this year, they always had the issue of situational hitting. You kind of saw it mostly when they played the extra innings games with the ghost runner. Yeah. I mean, I don't remember the exact stat, but they were bad in those extra inning games. They never really found ways to get the runner on second home. And even though they were one of the best teams in the regular season, you saw those issues all postseason long. And finally in game 4, Trey had that bunt and they started Will Smith got a sac fly. So it looked like they were starting to get to that situational hitting, but they didn't have it the first 3 games. They scored 3 runs in game 2, 1 run in game 3. And those were both very winnable games. So, I mean, maybe it's the approach, maybe it's that. And also, I mean, maybe it was some of the layoff that, and like I said, I mean, they haven't played an important game in 6 weeks. I mean, At some point that comes back to get you because the Padres were playing important games the entire second half of the season.
Teams with momentum, they win.
Mr. Mo, man. He's a nice guy and he can basically ruin your season. But I think that's a great point. I think you see people out there saying, oh, that's an excuse. Don't make that excuse about the layoff. But there's a difference between an excuse and an explanation. And the fact that you're not given high leverage at bats, there's a different intensity level when we're playing blitz ball and I have like 1 strike to go, right?
Yeah.
Versus we're just messing around and going through batting practice. But how much credit do you give the Padres pitching staff and Bob Melvin for just how they handled this explosive Dodgers offense?
I mean, you got to give them all the credit in the world. They went in with a game plan. They changed their season strategy to face this Dodger offense. Dave talked about it, where usually, batters like Will Smith, Justin Turner, they would, quote, see more spin in the regular season, but they went high velo, and we saw Dodger bats couldn't catch up to the high velocity. So all the credit goes to the Padres for riding their momentum for once, being hot at the right time. I guess you can give some credit to that, but their pitching staff not really giving away too many at bats. I mean, umpires didn't help in some situations. When we were talking before, we decided to hit the record button here about Mookie Betts at bats in a couple of those situations where they're probably ball 4, they're called strike 3. But that's another one where you'd like to see some fight, get some momentum going back to your dugout. But still, the Padres stayed executing, and they're still playing meaningful baseball.
Yeah, fantastic point. I think the bottom line is they were just key guys that you expect to produce for this lineup that just simply did not come through. Mookie Betts, like I said, it's time for Dodger bowling. It's time for Dodger baseball. He was atrocious. He hit 143 at a 492 OPS. He struggled with runners in scoring position, as did Will Smith. Will Smith having a bad series really hurt this team. He had so many opportunities. Hits 188. Justin Turner 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position, looking overmatched against high velocity fastballs. And when that's your number 5 hitter, the heart of your lineup, Justin Turner has to do a better job of just getting his bat on the ball and just getting a base hit. Now, next question I want to ask you guys, though, is a lot of the Dave Roberts apologists, the Doc defenders, they'll tell you, oh, Dave can't go up there and swing the bat. Dave can't go up there and swing the bat. Well, guess what? You know what Tommy Lasorda said? If you have runners on third with less than 2 outs and you don't get him in, you're playing for the other team. So do you think Dave deserves any fault for the offense's just cold spell, their lack of performance?
I don't know if that's a Dave thing. I think it's just an organizational thing. I'm also kind of curious about the hitting coaches and the hitting philosophy, because we've seen it time and time again in October. They stay up there swinging hard, swinging for the fences. You don't see this team really go. I'm not like a bunts, or I like big bunts and I can't lie. I don't think you need to go out there and bunt every runner over or whatever, but play to a situation, play it better. I point to them not being able to get that run in, what was it, the fifth inning or fourth or fifth inning. Padres, Bob Melvin, credit goes to Tim Hill, gets a big time strikeout of Max Muncy. You don't get that extra run. They don't bring in that run because they had runners at second and third, one out. You don't bring, and they already scored. They thought they had enough points to get through the game. They did not. That's my take.
Yeah, I mean, there were so many examples of just
No
lack
ending.
of execution. I mean, just look at game 2, Justin Turner first and third, no outs. Game 2, that sixth inning where Max Muncy gets fooled by the deke. He's unable to get to second. Gavin Lux grounds into that double play. Trey Turner's at bat just fouling out in key situations, grounding out when you have the runner at third. He just grounds to Manny Machado. He gets hit with the deke. So yeah, it was just the little things in this series that just continue to plague them. It's not like they got blown out in any of these games. But
I mean, we were watching the Philly Padres game 2, and sure, the Phillies ended up losing, but you saw them just finding grass, there was some luck in there, end cap hits dropping in front of outfielders. Juan Soto muffing a play in right field, but still they capitalized, they scored, they kept the line moving, they kept some innings going, and there wasn't a homer hit. This team plays for the homer. Would you change the hitting philosophy? It's tough to say. It's tough to say when a team just won 111 games, but when you keep doing the same thing over and over in October, maybe it's time you look at something a little bit different. Bring in a 15th hitting coach to be like, hey guys, this is your October hitting coach. We're gonna go through bunts. We're going to go through sacrifice flies. Those mean something. Runs are at a premium in October. Would you do anything in that regard?
I definitely would evaluate everything when it comes to the hitting. How big of a role do they have? I think there is this misconception that Robert Van Scoyoc is tinkering with all their swings. And when the reality is, guys like Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts, I've seen it with my own eyes. There's very little communication. They're going up there doing their own thing. They have their own routine. Same as Trey Turner. But I think Will Smith, like I said, you bring up the lack of execution, bases loaded on 2 different occasions. You're seeing weak flyouts. And I think that sometimes you do have to have that 2-strike approach. Sometimes you have to go up there and shorten your swing when you consider the fact that, A, your offense isn't doing very much. I mean, they average over 5 runs per game in the regular season. That was tops in all of Major League Baseball. And you saw, just look at game 4. They score 1 run. They average 3 runs per game on the season. But to get back to your question about hitting a home run, that's just how you win in Major League Baseball. And I hate to simplify this sport that has been so nuanced for so many years. But if you look at the record this season, teams that have out-homered their opponent are 16-5. Since 2016, teams that out-homered their opponent have won 86% of the game. So my issue is you got a 5'9", 180-pound player as your best home run hitter hitting leadoff in Mookie Betts. So I do think I want to bring in some sluggers that don't necessarily have that positional versatility that they covet on the Dodgers. Bring in some guys can be boppers. I remember in the offseason when we were talking about Jorge Soler and Nelson Cruz. I wanted to see some passion. I wanted to see some Bomba in there versus more of a balanced home run hitting like we saw with 21 Muncy, 24 with Will Smith. But I was going to ask you guys that question next as far as philosophies. And we know you want to maybe change the approach. Do you think that Robert Van Scoyoc, just from an optics standpoint, should fall on the sword? Because obviously they're not going to replace Doc, but who do you think should fall on the sword as far as the coaching staff?
Somebody. I would honestly... I'm a Bob Guerin guy. I think there needs to be one person somewhere. We know the think tank with Andrew and Dave are pretty similar. We know Bob thinks right in that line. And I think there needs to be just one different voice that says, hey, guys, maybe this... That's just my thing. So they're not going to change hitting coaches. They have 3 dudes who are part of that staff. So even if they get rid of one, the voicing, the philosophy, and what does a hitting coach do these days? Yeah. Well, really, they just bring you, I think they would mostly bring you what this pitcher does and what to look for in that situation. But love Bob Guerin. Chances are some of these guys are going elsewhere anyways, because there are a few managerial openings. There are other coaching openings. Bob Guerin's going to be my guy, though.
Yeah, that'd be very interesting because that's been his right-handed man. And who else is going to do this? That's like his moment when he gets the opportunity to call for the replay.
Hey, Walker needs a job next year.
Yeah, let Walker do it. Maybe Justin Turner retires and he'll be his right-handed man and he'll be the manager next season.